and welcome back to another episode of the Crazy Stupid Marketing Show, the show where we talk about all the crazy stupid stuff that people do in marketing and how you cannot do crazy stupid stuff, but instead do smart. I had a little voice crack there. Did you hear it? All like just good smart marketing stuff that is actually going to be a good way to spend your time instead of a lot of the other things that perhaps maybe we're throwing our time away on, and things, most importantly, that don't end up in the destination of the topic of our show today, which is trust and the relationship between trust and performance. Because I think a lot of times, especially in marketing, we get all obsessed with this concept of being data-driven marketers, and we collect a lot of data that says we're performing. So I mean, we could go through a whole list of vanity metrics. We're not going to worry about that. But like, there's lots of quote unquote results that we might be seeing that we're not necessarily feeling are attached to performance. So we're going to talk about trust and where trust plays in that equation today. And we have my good friend Ashley Cox joining us for this conversation, who knows much about trust and how it relates to performance and people working together and all that good stuff. So if you are joining us and you have questions about the things as they come up, please use the fancy dandy, handy dandy. Now this is, I combine those two things. Fancy dandy comment section to ask your questions or share your experiences and all of the good stuff, because the more voices we get into the conversation, the more robust the conversation is for all of us. And Ashley and I both love a robust conversation. Not that we can't have it between just the two of us, but we would rather hear your voices as part of the conversation as well. It's funny. So like behind the scenes, folks, I told Ashley just to like have a conversation and don't be weird. And now I feel like I'm being all weird, but like you guys have seen the intros before. You can make that decision to see if I'm being weird today. But we'll just let me stop being weird and how we get an intro to Ashley. Ashley, do you want to tell us, for those people who are watching today who don't know you, who you are, what you're all about, and why trust is something that you focus so heavily on in your work?
Well, I'm all for being weird, first of all. So this is the place to be for fellow weirdos. But like you said, Tracy, thank you so much for having me on the show today. I'm so excited to have this really weird conversation with you all about trust, and with your fabulous audience. So my name is Ashley Cox. I am a leadership mentor for ambitious but burnt out women who have teams of 5 to 50 employees, and they're wondering, where did all my time go and how do I get it back? And so I help them build high performance teams they can trust and rely on without losing their sanity or their humanity, because those are two very important things in my world. And so you asked, why is trust so important? Well, for me, trust is, it feels like one of those topics that people can easily write off as like the mushy, feel good, like, oh, it's just a lovey-dovey topic. But there's some real data and some stats behind trust and high trust cultures. They experience lower stress. They have higher productivity. They have higher creativity and innovation. They stay longer. They're engaged more. So all the things that you're wanting in your business can come as a result of having a high trust team.
Oh, well, that seems like something we would want to have in our marketing teams. And now, of course, folks, I'm not out there saying every single marketing team is out there operating without good trust in it. But I think it is one of those things that unless you have like really an intentional focus on the trust, it can just kind of get covered up by a lot of doing. And so I'd love to just start off with actually, do you have a way that you define trust or like a trust relationship that we want to use for sake of the episode today?
Yeah, I think it kind of changes. It depends on the situation. It depends on the people that are engaged in the relationship, whether it's working relationship or personal relationship, friends, colleagues, business partners, whatever that looks like. But I think at the end of the day, trust really can just be defined as, can I rely on you? Are you somebody that I can go to and I can ask a question and get an honest response? I can ask you to do a task and I know you're going to follow through. And if you can't follow through for some reason, you're going to let me know. It's really, to me, trust is about reliability. It's about being able to look at another human being and say, is this someone that I can put my faith in to follow through, to be honest, to be a good human, essentially? I think trust is about being a good human. Maybe that's the definition we use.
Be a good human, folks.
Right,
it's a good
right.
takeaway from the Crazy Stupid Marketing Show. Hopefully, we always have that as a takeaway. Okay, I actually love the question, about can I rely on you? Because I think from a marketing perspective, I don't know that a lot of marketers are out there being like, we're going to make this video campaign and ask ourselves at the end of consuming this video, do we think that people can rely on us to do a thing? Or actually, let's use like a case study. Even as an example, because I think a case study is one of those things in marketing. People are often like, this shows what I did, right? Like that I can be relied on. But I think a lot of us have also consumed and or read a case study and you're just like, meh. So like, what are some of the activities that you work through with your clients or that you've seen work in terms of contributing to a trust building relationship as opposed to, actually, let's look at ones that contribute first, but then also common ones that don't contribute.
Yes. Yeah. I think that's an important distinction because there are two sides of that coin. And there's actually three sides to the triangle of trust that I talk about a lot, which sounds really cheesy. And like I said, we're just going to lean right all the way into the weird over here. But I came up with this concept of the triangle of trust because I was trying to get leaders to really understand that trust isn't just a one-way street. And it's not just a two-way street, but that there are three specific components of a high trust team, of a high trust environment. And so let's talk about that. Then we'll talk about the good. Then we'll talk about the bad and the ugly cry. So the first thing is that the triangle of trust consists of the leader must trust their team, the team must trust their leader, and then the team must trust one another. And those are three very distinct parts of the trust focus or key factors that we have to have when we are thinking about a high trust team. And so some of the positive ways that we can influence trust, as a leader with our teams, or maybe as a marketer who is trying to get folks to know, like, and trust and buy their products and services, we have to show up, first of all, and we have to be consistent. Right. And when I say consistent, I am the world's worst person at being consistent because if you take the strengths finders, it lists all your strengths in order of 1 to 34. Guess what my number 34 is? Consistency. Terrible. It's terrible. So you might not see a post from me every day on LinkedIn, but what you will see is that my values are always consistent. The way that I show up and talk to people is always consistent. The things that I hold dear and believe deeply, my own personal leadership values are very consistent. And I think that's something that we have to understand from a trust perspective, is that when we're inconsistent, that's when we start to erode trust. So there's the positive and the negative, right? We show up and we have a set of values that we've defined. Like, this is who I am. This is who I'm being. This is who I'm committed to becoming. And I may not always get it right, but I'm always going to try to show up consistently in alignment with these values. And when I don't, when I make a mistake, when I say something harsh or off the cuff that I didn't mean, I know how to go back and own it. I know how to apologize appropriately, not, well, I'm sorry you felt that way, because that is not an apology, right? We know this. And then I do something to rectify it. How am I going to fix that? And so I think, consistency.
Consistency.
We
do like to make up words on this show.
This is why we get along. But, consistency in alignment with your values, in being in integrity, in the way that you show up for and with your team matters. And it makes a big difference. Something else that's really important is making sure that we're seeing the human behind the work. And I know that that sounds really simple, but it is really difficult in practice. And that's sometimes the beauty of things, is we get wrapped up in the day-to-day. We get wrapped up in the to-do list and the task. And I got to check this and this and this and this off my list. And I have all these things to do, and it's pressure and it's expectation and it's deadlines, and it's take a breath, slow down, This is what I'm always telling my clients. If you ask my clients, like, what's one thing Ashley always says? She's always like, slow down. Because we have to look at that person. We have to understand, what do they need to feel seen, to feel valued, to feel respected, to feel trusted. And the scary thing is, 2/3 of people that are working don't feel trusted by their employers. And that is a horrible, horrible feeling. Have you ever not felt trusted by someone?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Which is like specifically annoying for me because I'm like one of the most trustworthy people I know.
Right, right, right. And I would love to ask the audience, have you ever not felt trusted? And if you haven't felt trusted in, let's say, a work environment before, because family dynamics can be a little bit different and tricky, and we're here to talk about business. So, because I'm not a
That's
therapist.
just too complicated. That's for
a little,
someone else's show.
it's out of my pay grade. But if you've ever not felt trusted in the workplace, how did that feel? What was that experience? And I'll share some of mine. Before, I have felt like I always had to watch my back. Well, they don't trust me, so I have to like really make sure I've got my P's and Q's. I've got my I's dotted and my T's crossed. I felt like I was never performing up to standard, even though I was blowing my expectations out of the water as what was outlined in my job description, as what was talked about in a performance review. You feel like maybe people don't listen, they don't care. Maybe you feel like you don't have a voice, because it's like, oh well, they don't trust me, so maybe I shouldn't use my voice. I'm not going to speak up. I'm not going to share ideas. People start to close down. And if you want a team that is engaged and that's open and they're sharing ideas and they're being creative and they're saying, hey, why are we doing this when we could be doing this process instead and save 15 hours? Okay, that's what I want to know on my team. I want to know, like, where are the gaps? Where can we streamline? Where are we making things harder than they need to be? Where can we maybe tap into the market that we haven't tapped into yet, that I'm not seeing because I'm only one person with one perspective? And so, that really opens up a lot of positive opportunities for us to be able to engage with our employees in more meaningful ways.
Yeah. It's actually really interesting when I like extrapolate that because I think a lot of us have experienced that in the kind of maybe leader employee
Mhm.
dynamic, and there is a power dynamic there that is also at play. But when I like take that from a marketing perspective and also extrapolate this triangle of trust, which I love, by the way, to our clients, right? It's
Mhm.
like our
Mhm.
clients need to trust us, but we need to trust them
Mhm.
back.
Mhm.
And I think from a marketing perspective, there's a lot more focus on persuasion, manipulation, ideal customer
Mhm.
profiling, and all these types of things that are trying to convince us that we know them. But if we're looking at that from like even one, we don't really know them. We're fooling ourselves in that category. So we didn't even really get started on the no like trust scenario. But we want them to trust us, but we don't
Mhm.
bother to put the effort
Mm.
into trusting them. Like,
Yeah.
what would that look like for us to trust them? But
Mm.
also, what would that look like? This is a very interesting thing to play with from
Mhm.
a marketing point of view is what would it look like for our customers to trust each other,
Mm.
right? And one of the things that I talk about a lot are like
Mhm.
brand communities, right? So like
Mhm.
if we're here and we're creating a group of people who are here to do a thing, and that includes us as employees and
Mhm.
leaders, but also vendors and partners and our clients and our potential hirees and like the whole everybody who touches our referral partners who aren't actually
Mhm.
clients, right? Like all of
Mhm.
these people. And when we think about it that way, have we ever even bothered to explore if there's like one possible trust between those parties, let alone
Mhm.
actual trust, and
Mhm.
what might be possible? Now I'm just getting very excited about the potential in this. Is like, what if in our marketing we
Mhm.
created that? What if
Mhm.
we created a space where people could trust each other that were on their journey of like upping their leadership game or
Mhm.
on their journey of creating the new best AI solution, right? Like that, like,
Mhm.
I don't know, everybody's on different journeys. But what
Mhm.
if there was like a community of people that you were like, hey, trust triangle, what if we like got together in this? Now it's making me think of Circle of Trust. Meet parents.
Yeah, it does have that flavor.
Although I mean, I'm a big fan of the triangle. It's the strongest shape in
yeah.
It's the strongest shape.
Yeah. That was the end of the sentence.
That's it. That was it.
But yeah, what you're saying makes so much sense. And I can even, you talking this out loud and reflecting back to me, I can even see it in group programs I've hosted, in workshops I've facilitated. Like, there's a certain degree of trust you have to build within the context of a workshop or a group program so that the members within the program trust each other to be able to share feedback, to express ideas or contradicting thoughts out loud. And I never want everybody to sit in one of my workshops and just go, oh yes, that's great, I believe everything you say, it's wonderful. Fight back. Tell me you have a different perspective. And I think that's another great way to build trust too, is that you can have constructive conflict. And like, everybody thinks that conflict's so bad, but conflict is where we build and we innovate and we create and we say, no, this is us fighting against the status quo. And so if we can look at it as our team is on the same side, fighting the problem or finding the solution, then that helps to instill even greater trust, because it's not, Sarah against Fred, it's Sarah and Fred against this problem. But we might have different ideas and different ways of getting there.
Yeah. But this is also like so great, even from a like competitive landscape point of view, because if like, I believe in understanding what your competitors are doing, but at the same time, it's not my job to do what my competitor is doing. They're doing that. They're serving the need that way. I don't need to do that. That's what they're going to do. And this is what I'm going to do. And if we are all doing what we are doing, then we solve the problems for more people. It's one of the things, like, I always tell people, like, I love connecting with other marketers, because as far as I'm concerned, no marketer serves the exact same problem I do, but I don't fit all the problems. And so if I know more marketers, then I know more people get their problem solved.
Yes.
Because we can connect the dots to the right things. But that is very much this, like, I'm going to call it the trust pyramid. That's how it's coming up in my experience, not just a triangle. It's like four-dimensional. But like that, if we were doing that with our competitors too, what might that allow us to do from owning our own competitive advantage point of view? I think there's like some cool opportunities there as well. I want to quickly go back to consistency. Because I feel like I consistently need to bust this myth about consistency.
Is it more consistency?
Maybe it's more consistency than it is consistency.
As the kids are saying these days, right? It's sus.
Yeah. Let's not get into words I don't understand. We're making up enough words already. But what I want to remind people, even if it's from like a you being consistent point of view, which is how you explained it, or consistency is in marketing is also something that people are very, very heavily focused on. Consistency is not frequency, and consistency is also not recency. And so from a social media algorithm point of view, people get very confused in that consistency is about posting every day. No, frequency is about posting every day. That's frequency. And I'm not going to say that frequency is bad. Frequency is good. Recency is I posted yesterday, not like I posted 8 weeks ago. So also good, right? Good. This the last time you showed up. The more recent, the better. More people can see you and get an experience of you. Good. Neither of those things are consistency, though. Consistency is what you said, which is about showing up with the same values, driving the bus every time. And what happens a lot in marketing is when people get so focused on frequency and recency that they forget about consistency, and they convince themselves that they are being consistent because they're being frequent. But frequent inconsistency is much more confusing than infrequent consistency.
I love this. Okay, I am totally in this boat and I've got my paddle and I'm going in the right direction because I've seen this person, which every other day their messaging is changing, their ideal client is changing, their approach to their service is changing. It feels like they've got 15 businesses and you're not exactly sure what they're doing, who it's for, how they can help you. And so you're just kind of like, I'm just going to go over here because I don't know who you are, what you stand for, or how you might be able to help me.
Right. And how does that contribute to your trust?
Destroys it.
Well, that went straight to destroy. Not even.
I mean, like just done. Just done.
Well,
just done.
Although I will say this is interesting because in this world where there is so much volume of content, I think historically when there was less volume of content, you could have maybe like one hit that made people confused and they could still like keep your trust in you. But in today's, everything is moving so fast. There's so much volume. One thing could be like, oh no, I don't know. This is weird. This feels weird. Block. Right.
I mean, that's the people that just friend you or, connect with you on LinkedIn and then they're instantly in your DMs trying to sell you whatever it is they sell. It's like, no, hard pass, done with that. But no, I don't think maybe that's a little too harsh that I see, like you're selling 15 different messages and you're just blocked, you're banned for life. No, but it does take a lot longer and it is much harder to build trust when you are not consistently standing in your values on your messaging in the way that you show up and serve.
Yeah. And I think too that in a lot of copy paste types of programming, right? People just be like, even like I still see this, right? Do one educational post a week and one research post a week and 2 personal posts a week. And you're like, who came up with that formula?
And also, I can't keep track of all that. That's a lot.
Also, do you want to? Like, again, none of these things are bad. Like doing research, not bad. Helping educate people, not bad. Doing personal posts, not bad. None of this is bad. But like, what would you do today? Are you feeling? I love a good friend of mine, and maybe he's watching the show. You can chime in if you're watching the show. But he's a vulnerability coach. And at one point we were having this conversation. He was like, oh, I think I'm going to do these vulnerability moments as part of my like content strategy. And I'm like, oh, that sounds like a great idea. And he's like, yeah, I'm going to schedule them for every Tuesday at 10 o'clock. And I was like, how do you know you will be feeling vulnerable on Tuesdays at 10 o'clock?
Because we've been brainwashed to believe that we have to put everything on a regimented schedule.
And so what if instead of doing that, you just did a vulnerability moment when you were having a vulnerable moment, which is inherently unpredictable, but also inherently unpredictable for other people.
But it also demonstrates alignment with being vulnerable and showing up in vulnerability, which is consistent.
Right. And so like, this is the thing where it gets interesting and like playing these things out. There is a balance. And I mean, I always come back to the authenticity and like doing what you would do if you would do a joke of the day every Wednesday. Fun, right? But like, if you're doing joke of the day every Wednesday just to fill the content calendar for Wednesday, then what if someone comes back at you and wants you to tell them a joke?
You don't have one to pull out of your back pocket.
Actually, I don't do that.
I'm not a jokey person. Like that would be very, that would be very incongruent for me because I cannot tell a joke to save my life. So if I did a joke of the week post, I would totally get called out on the rug in real life if you saw me.
I got called out in real life today. I feel like I kind of like make jokes through conversation, but I don't like have jokes, right?
Yes.
And my son today had his little drum kit out and he is like, Mom, tell a joke because he wants to do the boom, boom, ch. And I was like, I don't know. And then I told, why does the chicken cross the road? And then he was like, that's not a good joke. And I'm like, you did not ask me to tell a good joke. You asked me to tell a joke. You just
asked for a joke. Yeah. And that was my one standby joke that I could call on the moment. But yeah, But if you're a joke, like if you're a joke teller, if you're a storyteller, if you're somebody that loves data and research and you always have statistics to pull out of your back pocket, like that makes sense and that builds trust. And the
Yeah.
same thing goes when you're working with your team, like you can't just all of a sudden pretend that you're someone that you're not. And I think that's one of the things that erodes a lot of trust. Like I'm trying to be this real serious professional, like rule with an iron fist kind of person. And everybody's like, okay, like, but really, but are you? But if you come in and you say, my approach is more compassionate and nurturing, and I want to sit and I want to get to know you, and I want to ask you questions, and I want for us to be able to have deep conversations around the things that are feeling vulnerable. That's a whole different vibe and a whole different approach. And
Right.
so it's okay to lead like whoever you are in this world. And it's okay to show up on social media and in your marketing efforts as whoever you are in this world, because we don't need a bunch of copy and paste folks.
And we know that you're copying and paste. If you're copying and
my God,
pasting,
we
everybody's
do.
seeing enough of the stuff.
Right. There's patterns. There's patterns and there's words that are very common.
Well, okay. And this is an interesting point, because patterns and words, right? Like very commonly we get caught into this, like someone else has better words than us. And I'll hire a marketer. Sometimes there are marketers out there telling you that you should hire them because they have better words than you. And I would challenge them to say they have different words than you.
Different. Yes.
Not necessarily better, not necessarily worse. But this concept of that better or worse, I feel like is one of the things that stops us from doing exactly what you just called people to do, right? Is like stand up and be that. Use your words, use your patterns. It's not the same as someone else's pattern, and that is fine. But especially in like industries or services where you're actually trying to create a pattern interrupt, and you realize that a pattern interrupt is actually critical in order for someone to be successful in a transition to something else. Why would we just like keep circling around what everybody else is doing and then expect to get the clients that are ready for a pattern interrupt, right? We haven't given them one. And again, even from the leadership perspective, I always find this really interesting because people carry around their own definitions of what it is to work in an environment, right? And it's based on their own work experience, which as a leader, I don't control. And so I can make invitations into spaces, into conversations, into those types of things, and they can be accepted or they can be ignored. And I don't necessarily control that. But in showing up the way you would show up, it's a lot easier to have your invitation rejected. So I think that that's one of the things that people forget, is that like, if I'm showing up and I'm trying to be Ashley, fail hard at that, even though we are very alike, because we're not the same person. And then every time I get rejected, I actually feel like there's something wrong with me, even though I'm not being myself. I'm trying to be someone else. And when we come back to the just like, well, I had this with a friend a couple of weeks ago. I had like reached out to share something that I was working on. It got interpreted based on a filter that I did not control, with like fairly harsh outcome of like that ended up not really going to be a friendship that was going to continue into the future. And like, I don't control that, but because I know that that's what I would do, and I had goodness in my heart, and if that can't be felt right now because of other things, that isn't something I can control, but I know that that was what I would do. So I actually feel okay with it. Whereas otherwise you're just like always chasing the next like leadership principle or marketing tactic or fad. And then you're like, just going to spend your whole life chasing. And that feels exhausting.
Yes. Oh, I love this conversation. It really is so true. And the thing is that the people that are vibing with you and aligning with your values and your level of integrity and the way that you show up in the world, they're going to double down when they hear that you made that decision, or you created that new product or service or whatever it is in the world, right? And the same thing's true with our team members. Not every employee is meant for you, and that is
Right.
okay. We want to attract the employees that have a similar value system. Maybe they're not exactly like us, because that's a bad thing. We don't want to create homogeny within our teams or within our marketing, to where it's like, wow, this is a bunch of whole white women over here. And, we could use a little diversity. We could use different perspectives. We could use people from different socioeconomic backgrounds, because they bring something different to the table. People with disabilities have a different perspective and view on the world than someone who doesn't have a disability. So there's so much culture add that we can bring in, but the foundation is, do we all believe in being honest? Do we all believe in being, making sure that our customers are our number one focus? Whatever your values are, whatever those foundational pieces are, we use that to pull in the people who are aligned value-wise with our team, with our friendships, with our family, chosen or otherwise. And we say, okay, we all have the same or similar values foundation, and we also have something additional to bring to that team. But I do want to go back and kind of pull a thread from something you were saying a minute ago with the pattern disruption or the pattern interruption. I also think it's not just our words, but it's the thoughts that we have. It's the way that I think about leadership that is different than the next leadership mentor or coach. It's the way that you think about marketing that's different from the next marketing strategist or advisor or consultant. And so it might not be that I use the fanciest words, but I might say something in a way that you've never thought of before. And all of a sudden, pattern disruption. You're like, whoa, holy smokes. I never thought about it that way before, but yeah, that's how I'm feeling. That's what I want to be able to do or be or become. And so I think that's also pattern disruption that can be really powerful.
Yeah. Consistency.
We're so sus.
Oh, we're doing this one. But this is also the thing. And I have this conversation with a lot of clients, because the things that flow through our brains seem very simple to us. And a lot of times, whether it's in a leadership scenario or whether it is in sharing a point of view on a podcast or on social media, we think it has to be profound. We put all this pressure on us being profound and wise and showing our wisdom and all of these things. And then somehow we get like more disconnected from our inner wisdom, which is us just thinking our thoughts that are immediately prodded by the thing that happened. So it's something someone else said, or something we saw in the world, or a comment my son makes, or what have you. Like, it comes from everywhere. And when we realize that is what is simplest to us is profound to other people, then we can also give ourselves that permission to just say what we would say. And like, I cannot tell you how many times I've like said my definition of authenticity out in the world on a podcast and my social media, and what I've said it a lot of times, same thing, right? And every single time I do, someone's like, oh, that's a cool way of thinking about it. And I'm like, yeah, that was for that one person who hadn't heard it yet.
Yes.
Right. And the 8 other billion people on this planet who haven't heard it yet. But are there that many yet? I think so. Close to, anyway. And the aliens who haven't heard it.
Definitely them.
Yeah. I don't know. They might be picking up vibes that the humans on Earth aren't picking up. But the thing is that, like, it doesn't have to be something that's brand new. Most ideas in the world are not brand new. They are a mashup of things. It's because I met Ashley and we were talking about this book, and then I thought of this that I experienced buying Lego one day, right? Like, I don't know. There's no rationale behind the connections that we make in our brains. But when we allow those to show up and lead the way, then we are by nature standing out from the crowd. We are doing something different. We are being ourselves. And
Mhm.
I mean, I always say, like, I would love to, at the end of my life, I have every intention of having on my headstone, which will actually probably be a tree pod, but
Mhm.
something, the thing around the tree pod that says, like, more personal brands were on fire because Tracy was here. And that could be just one more. It could be
Mhm.
just my son, Nicholas. But
Mhm.
like every once in a while, there's someone that's just like, psh, and I'm like, yes, living into my destiny. But like,
Mhm.
and that's my destiny, not
Mhm.
everybody's destiny. But when we have that connectedness to like who we are and why we do the things that we do,
Mhm.
why we lead the way we lead, why we help the way we help, why we go and help our aunt move when everyone else is like, hell no. Like that's a me thing, right?
Yeah.
I had this conversation with my dad earlier this week, and I was like, I know you think you're making my life easier by trying to figure out a way where I don't have to do this, except I kind of want to. So can you
Mhm.
let me?
Yeah.
um, and he was like, oh, yeah, okay. And I could tell he was like, I think you're kind of crazy because you want to do this, but like, that's fine. And like, I mean, as much fun as you can have doing like 5-hour days, just moving stuff, it's like
Yeah.
it's a lot of work. But also, I was out for my walk this morning, and I was like, I didn't even watch TV for like the past 2 days, and it feels so good.
And sometimes it takes a pattern disruption to realize the thing we were doing wasn't maybe the best thing for us, but the new thing, that could be it. That could be the thing. But you mentioned
Well,
something, Tracy, that
not
I
gonna move.
really,
Not
yeah,
gonna help people move all the
well,
time, but
no, not the
keep
moving, but maybe the disconnection from the devices, I've taken
yeah.
those little
Yeah.
breaks before myself. But
Yeah.
something you said I wanted to come back to was that inner wisdom. And that's
Mm,
something I talk about a lot with my clients is that I am not your guru. I am not the holder of all of the answers in the universe. And so we work a lot on building self trust, building
yeah.
self knowing, building self confidence. Because at the end of the day, it's your business and it's your team. And you have to trust that you are the right person leading both of those things because you
Mm,
had a vision and you had an impact that you wanted to make in this world. You had something like you're talking about that's driving you because it is important and it matters and it's your legacy. And so I'm not the person that's going to come in and be like, well, here's how you need to fix all the things you need to do
right.
exactly this way. And, like we were talking about earlier, like you need to do a statistic post on Tuesday and a joke post on Wednesday and a this on Thursday. Like, no, that's not how leadership works either. It's not copy paste. It's not a template that you follow. It's this inner knowing, and it's allowing yourself to trust yourself. Maybe it's like the trust square or quadrant now. I don't know.
See,
Maybe
but this is what makes it the pyramid.
it does. Maybe the core of the
Now
pyramid
it's
is you trusting
three-dimensional.
yourself. But the thing is, you can't trust other people if you don't trust yourself.
Facts.
Mhm.
Well, and again, like coming back, because that's what I was like. I feel like we added another category into this
Yeah.
trust pyramid. But also, like extrapolating that from a brand perspective, right? This
Mhm.
is about trusting ourselves to say,
Mhm.
like, okay, well, that's how our competitor does it, and
Mhm.
that's fine. But
Yep.
the reason why we're in this business is because there was something about that doesn't serve
Mhm.
holistically or thoroughly or enough people or however why ever we got into this business
Mhm.
in the first place. And so those people are over there being served that way, and our people are over here being served by us. And
Mhm.
unless we put that trust in ourselves, then we also end up copying because it's just quote unquote easier to copy what someone else is doing.
Yeah.
But actually, I think that leads really nicely into this tie into performance,
Mhm.
because when we are just like trusting, I mean, it feels like a stretch to say that copying is like trust. I mean, it is kind of though. If I'm going to copy you, then I'm going to say I put more trust in what you're doing than what I would do.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think there is a trust play there. At least there's some kind of story in
Mhm.
our beingness that's about that.
Mhm.
Um, but at the end of the day, let's start. Since we're just talking about self trust, let's start with self trust, right?
Mhm.
Like how critical to to performance, whether that's from a marketing perspective or a human optimization perspective, how important is it for me as a leader or me as a marketer to trust that what I am doing can accomplish what I'm trying to accomplish?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, let's start from the marketing perspective, because this is something I've had to learn on my own journey, is that if I don't trust the services that I've created, the business that I've built, the message that I have to share, how in the world am I going to sell it to anybody else? If I don't trust it, why should anybody else believe it or trust it? Like, that feels like a real slippery slope, right? And so also the same thing kind of comes into play when it's with our own businesses and our own teams. If I don't trust the business that I've built, if I don't trust the vision that I have for the future, if I don't trust that I am the person who was put here to do this thing and to have this impact, how do I get other people to trust me? Like,
Right.
I have to trust myself in order to bring the people along. And that's a hard lesson to learn. That was a hard lesson for me to learn in marketing, because it was at odds with what I felt about leadership. I was like, well, of course, I have to trust myself so my team trusts me and that we can build this relationship. And then I'm like, oh God, no, not my own medicine. I hate it when that happens. Got to take a spoonful of your own medicine sometimes.
It always makes me think of Mary Poppins and her rum punch.
Does.
But like, I love how you're creating the like comparison there, though, because I think it is very common for people to have very good clarity on the type, like a specific concept in one area of their life or business, but not extrapolate it to other areas. And so while that might feel for somebody very clear from a leadership perspective, that like, well, are you doing that in your marketing though? And then people are like, ooh. Ooh.
And I
In
see
fact, I
this with
don't
my
know
clients.
how to.
Yeah, right. And I see this with my clients. They're really exceptional at the thing they do. And
Right.
then they wig out because they're like, oh my God, I can't lead this team of people. And I'm like, okay, tell me a little bit about how you lead the rest of your business. Tell me how
Right.
you got here. Tell me how you, approach sales. Tell me how you approach whatever. And they're like, oh, I do this and I do that. And I'm like, great, we can use that. Let's just copy paste over here. Like, we copy paste from ourselves with our own values, with our
Yes.
own knowing, with our own wisdom, with trusting ourselves in this area, and put it over here in this area. And so a lot of the work that I do is finding those special character quirks and personality traits and strengths that the women that I work with have, and finding ways to help them leverage that from a leadership perspective. Oh, if you would talk about this in this way, let's talk about this, leadership situation you have going on with your team in that same similar vein. Then it doesn't feel incongruent. It feels consistent.
Yes, we're gonna get this in so many times.
It's gonna be a record breaker.
We're gonna make it a thing now, folks.
thing.
So you can
Oh
expect to
God.
see a hashtagging trend.
Are we trying to like Mean Girls this and make fetch a thing?
Stop! Fetch is not gonna happen. It's not Wednesday, so it's
Well, that's true.
where
What day is it? I guess it's Tuesday.
what day is
I don't
it?
know.
We don't know. We just show up and we have conversations.
Right. This appointment was on my calendar. I showed up where I was supposed to be.
Success. Okay. Well, first of all, there's a quote of the week so far. We're going to copy and paste, copy from you. It's so good because we also think that like, that someone else knows how to do it better. And this is constantly what I am trying to remind people about from marketing. Like, first of all, for most of us in the business world at this point, we have been consuming advertising for most of our lives.
Mm-hmm.
We know what it's like to interact and consume marketing. So we know some stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know stuff you like, and you know stuff you don't like. And people like to get all confused and be like, well, what about my target market? Your target market is not that different from you. Right? Some people love video. Some people love audio. Some people like text. Some people like short text. Some people like long text. Some people like Facebook. Some people like LinkedIn. Like, okay, you can chase them. Again, you can chase them all around all you want. But I'm going to tell you, this is something that like comes up for me, this chasing versus leading. It's something that comes up for me a lot. And I'm like just thinking about it in a performance perspective. But like, if we are chasing, are we winning the race? And if we're not winning the race, are we considering that performance? Because I mean, you can get to the Olympics and you can perform highly and lose the race, but I would guess that those guys didn't come there to come in 18th. They came there to win a gold medal. And there's like self-trust that goes into that kind of training and discipline that's there behind that. But those athletes, they also got to trust their team. They've got nutritionists, they got trainers, they got physiotherapists, right? They got people telling them how much rest they need to have, how much salt they need to consume, right? Like all of this is what comes together to create performance. And then even then, there's a degree of timing that exists, right? So athletes peak at different times. Sometimes you peak at the Olympics and sometimes you don't. And then you're like, that sucks. But we also don't control all of that. We don't control the external factors of when other people are peaking and all of those different things. We control what we control. And when our team, when we trust ourselves to like make those calls, when we trust the team that we've built to support us in making those calls, and they are people that we can rely on, then the likelihood of performance is higher. We increase our luck surface area.
Yes. You're not ever guaranteed success. But the more you increase that luck success surface area, which I love that you always talk about this, it's just brilliant and it just makes sense. And you're like, yes, of course it's luck because I put a lot of work into it. I put a lot of effort. I did a lot of stuff. And all of a sudden it's like, an overnight success story, 10 years in the making sort of situation, right?
Right. Well, and like, let's confirm. Luck surface area was not created by me. I heard it in a book that was referencing someone else who came up with it.
Yes. Like, I just know you're the person I heard it from first.
Heard it through the grapevine. I'm spreading it.
Oh my God. That brings back, I had a flashback of a childhood memory when I was like 4 or 5 years old and I was dressed as a California raisin doing a performance to that song. I've not thought about that in years.
You're welcome. These are the types of things you not know you're getting into on
right. But something I wanted to kind of follow up on is when you said if you're chasing something, but I was instantly like, if you're chasing, you're not leading.
No, you can't be. You can't do both of those things.
No. And so that's the thing. If we're always chasing around everyone else's great ideas or everyone else's leadership style, then we're never developing our own and we're never actually leading in the ways that we could, which would be so much more powerful because they're so wholly unique to us.
But also, the confusion I always have is if we look at the great leaders, and whether that's like in your own personal life, that somebody you consider a great leader, or like out in the wide world of people who generally people consider great leaders, that were they all the same? Did they have the same personalities? Did they have the same stands they were taking for humanity? Were they in the same location? Did they speak the same language? No. None of this was true. All of them were being themselves, choosing their thing, walking the hard path, right? Like, so we think we can just copy them and achieve the same level of success because that's not what they did.
Yeah.
That's not what made them great.
Yeah. I think we can be inspired by other people.
Yeah.
We can learn new strategies or techniques from other people. But who we are and who we are becoming, we're the only one we can ever be that's exactly like us. And that's kind of cool. And a little terrifying.
Well, and it's so last week we did a show on career identities. And we were talking about where are you the first, where are you the best, and where are you the only? And I was like, at being Tracy Borison.
I'm the best me I can be.
I don't know. Maybe there was a Tracy Borison before me. I don't know, but it doesn't even matter.
There are like at least 8 bajillion Ashley Coxes out there. So I'm literally not the only one of my name. But I am the only one with this particular DNA structure. So
you are the Ashley Cox.
Right. Oh, is that how I have to differentiate myself? I'll just add a "the" to the beginning of my name.
The one, the only.
Oh dear. Now we have a whole intro.
Yeah. I'm turning this into a show in my head, by the way.
Right.
But
Right.
like the point is, again, like there's some people
Mhm,
who have very common names, there's some people who don't
mhm,
have very common names.
mhm,
But the point is that like
mhm,
when you have that kind of self-ownership
mhm,
of yes, this is me and
mhm,
this is my way. And I
mhm,
have I met someone for the first time ever at, well, on a virtual chat, and we've been connected for a while, and we keep having people being like, you guys have to meet each other. And so we finally had a chat today, and she's like, oh, I got the pink headphones. And I'm like, yeah, it's kind of my thing that I do. It's not just in my profile picture. It's
Yeah.
in my profile picture because it's kind of a thing that I do.
Yeah.
And it's like it's interesting to like see those types of things. Like I'm
Mhm,
not the only person in the world who wears pink headphones,
mhm,
right? Like,
mhm,
and I will never be the only person in the world
mhm.
who wears pink headphones. Otherwise, they wouldn't manufacture pink headphones, and I wouldn't be able to buy them. So, like, that doesn't make sense. But
Yeah.
like when we are just like, yes, we own your like you-ness. And I
Mhm,
am like very convinced. And I mean, actually, because you mentioned that there's some data. So if you have data on this, I'd be happy for you to share it.
mhm, mhm,
But like when you own your you-ness and you
mhm,
have that trust in yourself and you have
mhm,
that trust in your team and you're just like, this is our we and this is how we do stuff. And like,
mhm,
if you don't like it, fine, don't join this team, but this is how we do stuff here. Like that commitment and belief in yourself, in your
mhm,
team is a huge component to what drives performance as well. And
mhm,
we can't necessarily measure belief.
mhm,
Um, I will tell you, I watched it happen multiple times this year with the baseball team I coached when all of the coaches were in full belief that the girls could win the game.
mhm,
They did. When the coaches were not all in full belief that the girls could win
mhm.
the game, they lost.
Yeah. I wanna know, what was the difference that them being in full belief versus not full belief made in the way that they showed up?
It's so energy for
Mhm,
one, right? So there's like I'll call it a like excited energy.
mhm,
Um
mhm.
and they're like really I would bring it down to excited energy versus disappointment, right?
Okay.
So one of the
Okay.
things I would say that I try very hard to do as a coach is that when
Mhm,
someone makes this, like coach 12 and 13 year olds,
mhm,
they're going to make a mistake. All people are going to make a mistake. But when they make a mistake, that they believe that that's not going to cost them the game, that just because you struck out once or you dropped a
mhm,
ball
mhm,
or you didn't make the throw or you
mhm,
didn't make the catch, that
mhm,
doesn't mean we lose. None of those things. All of
mhm,
those things can happen in a game and we can still win.
mhm,
And so I actually found it easier with the team than with the coaching staff to like get that belief to live.
mhm, mhm.
Um,
Well, they're 12 and 13. They haven't been jaded by life yet.
right. They believe in me more.
Right.
They were open to my woo more than the other coaches.
Yeah.
Um, but it was so interesting because
Mhm,
also I think like there's levels of self-awareness that exist
mhm,
here or don't exist here. And for me, I can like see like you are not believing for real and you're
mhm.
saying the words I believe, but I can't feel it from you,
Yes.
right? Like
Okay.
I don't feel that you believe.
So here's a really fun statistic for you because I was really excited when you went this direction, and this is the answer to the question. It wasn't like I was baiting you, but I was like, I wonder if this like is going to prove in this particular situation. But Harvard Business Review did a study that found that high trust teams have 106% more energy at work
Mm,
because they have such a high level of belief, because they have such a high level of trust. They're like, we can't do anything but win. And
yeah,
that's exactly what's being demonstrated with that team. When everybody's all in, when everybody's believing, that energy builds and creates that momentum, and that also feeds our belief that we're going to win.
right.
A couple of other things, and I have my notes here because there's a lot of statistics, but I want to make sure I get the numbers right. So it's same study from Harvard Business Review, 74% less stress. Hello, who does not want less stress in their life, in their
That's
business,
a
with
lot.
their team? That's a lot. I mean, that's a lot. 50% higher productivity. Hello, everybody's always saying like, how do we get more done? How do we make more money? How do we do this? How do we do that? Well, we have to build trust. We have to trust each other. We have to trust leadership. Leadership has to trust us so that we can show up as our best self. 76% more engagement. All right, what's engagement? Engagement means that you are actively asking questions, participating in conversations at work, bringing ideas to the table, reaching out to collaborate with other team members. Like, hello, we all want all of that too. Remember when we say we want a team that can kind of work together and rely on one another? That's engagement. We need that. 29% more satisfaction with their lives. They're happier in their personal lives when they have a high trust team at work that they get to work with. And that to me is just so heartbreaking to think that there's so many people out there who are not satisfied with their lives, and it stems from the kind of work environment that they're in. And then the last one is 40% less burnout. Guess what burnout leads to? Poor performance, quiet quitting, turnover, loads of
physical illness.
And that's just from the business perspective. From the human perspective, yeah, illness. They have higher instances of tardiness, late behavior, calling out of work. Also, it's just not nice to burn people out. Please don't do that. It's also not nice for you to burn out. Like burnout is what leads to us not having sustainable businesses. That leads to us not having practices where people can come to work and feel good and be excited and participate and do meaningful work, because most people want to come to work and do a good job. Yes, there are those instances that people come and they want to cause mayhem and chaos and, disrupt the system and whatever. That's fine. We'll deal with them. But like 99.9% of people want to come to work. They want to do a good job. They want to feel and be trusted, and they want to trust other people. And they want to do work that matters. And at the end of the day, isn't that what we all want? We want to do work that matters, that makes a difference. We're only here for a short period of time, and then we're off to whatever's next. But while we're here, let's do work that matters. Let's do work that's important. Let's do it with people we like and that we know and that we trust and that we care about. And that's my soapbox moment.
Yes. I love it too, because again, like these types of things, engagement, less burnout, right? Like, and I know there's more stats, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm sure there's like X amount of companies waste X amount of money on people burnout things.
Mm-hmm.
But the end of the day is that you don't have the energy. And like let's talk about solar power for a second, right? A solar panel's job is to absorb the energy from the sun and turn the energy into performance, electricity, right? Something that we need, something that we want to use. In our organization, all of our people and all of our clients, even from a marketing perspective, partners, vendors, fill in the gap with your brand community. All of these people are the sun. They have potential energy that lives in them on a day-to-day basis. It can be harnessed or it cannot be harnessed. It's like what I'm taking away from today is trust is your solar panel.
I love that this is where this conversation has ended up. Trust is your solar panel. I feel like that could be a branded thing.
Trust is your solar panel. Because like that's what it does. When you create trust, it converts that energy into electricity, and I can power things with that, including performance. If I don't have the solar panel, all of that energy just gets not necessarily wasted. We might capture it here and there because we're outside tanning, we feel it on our skin, but like we don't have a system to convert that into something meaningful. And we get as humans very distracted by an actual like tangible system, right? Like take this person and give them 30 days of onboarding, and then you give them 60 days of this, and then every 2 weeks you do, and then we do a stand-up every morning, and all of this is supposed to just, except is it delivering trust or is it not delivering trust, right? Like we have a whole system that's not actually delivering the trust. What can we do? And you mentioned some like really simple things. Go back to the beginning of the episode. I hear them. But like these things are simple, right? Seeing people, appreciating people, right? Like these are the types of things that allow that solar panel to function. And like just how much power can we get out of it if we just put a little bit of focus and intention on optimizing that solar panel.
Yeah. I love this. I always tell my clients, like, just look up. Look up. Look up and look around you because you're so busy doing this. I'm busy. I got things to do. And if you just look up, you're going to see the people sitting there looking back at you. And that's where trust begins.
Oh, that feels like the perfect place to finish this episode today. Look up, folks, whether that's at your people or it's at the sun.
But sunglasses. Eye protection is important.
Looking at the sun. Yes, please. I would like to believe we all know this, but like we better put a disclaimer on this episode.
We don't want to be responsible for anybody's eyeballs scorching.
Advice on this show. Ashley, thank you so much for joining me in this fantastic conversation. I want to shout out also Andrew, who I think introduced us to each other, but we already knew each other. And yes. Andrew was like, Ashley should be on your show. And I'm like, yeah, Ashley should be on my show. And so here we are today with all the weirdness that hopefully dropped some really amazing golden nuggets for everybody. I know we did along the way. Ashley, before we wrap up, where is the best place for people to find you if they are interested in continuing the conversation?
Yeah, you can connect with me right here on LinkedIn and everywhere else. I'm ashleycox.co everywhere you go.
Ooh,
nice.
Rhymes. We got rhymes and everything on this episode, folks. You didn't even know what you were doing.
I love it.
Ashley, it's always a pleasure chatting with you, my friend. Thank you for everybody who is watching. If you have any questions and you didn't, or you're watching on replay and you have questions, please feel free to still pop them in the chat. We will find them and we'll answer them. Otherwise, stay tuned for, we are going to be off next week, because I'm going to be on vacation. And then we're actually coming back with a really fun series about what other industries can learn from marketing. Usually on this show, we are doing what we can learn from other industries. We're going to flip it. And we're going to talk about some anthropology and some organizational psychology and maybe even some tech. It's going to be really exciting. So make sure to check out that in August. But until next time, folks, thank you so much for joining us and permission to do you. Bye, everyone.